question is, will we be hearing that same song in a little over a month down in Glendale, Arizona at about 8:30 in the evening as our Seattle Seahawks once again accept a Lombardi Trophy? Welcome 12th man, 12th lady, and Hawks Nation around the world. This is your show, 12 for 12s, with your host, Paul Beyer. Happy holidays. How's everybody doing out there? You enjoying your last few weeks of 2014? My hope is yes. Now we get ready for New Year's. Just a party 24 hours away for most of us, I assume. But hey, we'll see how that all works out. I think the real party we all look forward to, for those that are listening to this program, is that will partake at the Clink each Sunday or Saturday once the playoffs begin for us on the 10th, all the way to Glendale. The 2014 regular season is now over. It's time for the second season to begin. Once again, Seattle Seahawks will be the number one seed for the NFC National Football Conference, and the road to Glendale will run through the Clink. After losing to the Rams 10 weeks ago, only 10 weeks ago, many, including myself maybe, thought the damage from the Percy experiment was done. Maybe too much to overcome. Maybe we could have made the playoffs still, but this team was not itself. There was something wrong. The Seahawks battled through a few games after losing in Kansas City. They had a players-only meeting that I think will be remembered as the rebirth of a champion. Like a phoenix rising from its ashes, the Seahawks rose from their depths to begin the fulfillment of their destiny in 2014. After running the gauntlet of the NFL's most difficult schedule to end this season, going 6-0, catching and overtaking the Cardinals to win the NFC West, and now stand atop the NFC as the number one seed. Any and everything seems possible to me. In this case, the potential to repeat as Super Bowl champions is definitely in sight. The first hurdle in that objective will take place in a little less than 2 weeks. Saturday, January 10th, like I mentioned prior. That afternoon at the Clink, well, we're going to have to play either the Arizona Cardinals, the Carolina Panthers, or Detroit Lions. Already this season being 3-0 against those three teams. Unfortunately, the Lions we haven't played. Depending on those results of this upcoming wildcard weekend, well, hey, we'll find out. Each of those teams has matchups, one with each other. The Cards were playing the Panthers, and the Lions, now with Ndamukong Suh, able to play against the Cowboys, should make that a little more interesting. So how do you feel about these events, which transpired over the past 17 weeks? Does it seem impossible? Does it seem like a dream? Does it feel like it happened in another lifetime? I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your stories of this season. For me, it won't be finished till we take home the Lombardi the evening of February 1st. And to be honest, I can't wait to tell it to all of you the Tuesday on this program. But first, we've got a lot to talk about and cover in the meantime. Since the Seahawks got the bye, this week's show will be more about, I think, the rest of the league. Obviously, we're going to have a lot to talk about on the Seahawks part of this equation, but I am going to be joined by a fantastic guest, Ollie Connolly of UKEndZone. That's UKEndZone.com. He is a Patriots man by trade, but as also being a British man to boot. He's well-versed, nonetheless, in the NFL through and through. He is going to be joining me a little after the bottom of this hour, and I really am looking forward to talking to him. He has got a multitude of podcasts out there very well-followed individual in the NFL universe, and I think one that will be great to get a viewpoint on as the playoffs for the entire NFL arise. Also, I think from a possible opponent, if we make it to the Super Bowl from the AFC, one we could plan on facing. You can follow Ollie on Twitter at Ollie UKEZ. That's OLLIEUKEZ. That's his Twitter handle. As for myself, you guys can always follow me on Twitter at PBizzle, PBIZZEL, as well as on Facebook at Paul Beyer, BEYER, and on my 12 for 12's radio page on Twitter, or I should say on Facebook as well. There's also the YouTube page. It has all of my interviews and shows from previous weeks. You can check out, if you want to just listen to them, obviously, there's a slideshow to go with. Those are at the YouTube channel of 12 for 12s. And you can find me on my website at 12for.com. That's 12for12s.com. The daily links I update 3 to 5 times every single day with the latest from around the internet regarding your Seattle Seahawks. Of course, always, there's something to get to this episode, commentary, Hawks 12, but we always start with our quick takes right out of the gate, so let's get on those as we speak. Well, as I mentioned already, the 2014 season is complete, but not to jump too far ahead.
Now's the perfect time to get great deals on a huge selection of Toyotas, like a bold new Camry, tough, rugged Tundra, and fuel-efficient Prius. But hurry in, Toyotathon ends January 5th.
We just don't know when
Toyota,
we're going to be playing.
Let's go places.
The home games, and again, I think there's some good ones here. Chicago, the Bears are going to be coming to town. Who will be quarterbacking them? Well, that's your guess is mine. Detroit, obviously playing the NFC North this year. We will be welcoming the Lions and their pass-happy, Ken Johnson-led team. The Cleveland Browns, with who knows if Johnny Manziel will even be on that team.
Toyota. Now's the perfect time to get great deals on a huge selection of Toyotas, like the bold new Camry, tough, rugged Tundra, and fuel-efficient Prius. But hurry in, Toyotathon ends January 5th.
And the Carolina Panthers,
Toyota,
seems like we play the Panthers every year, so heck, welcome the Panthers. The away games are going to be Green Bay at Lambeau, a very tough opponent, obviously at a great storied building. The Minnesota Vikings, that should be interesting. And I think their new stadium should be complete by then, and that is going to be a beautiful one, even though I refuse to walk back into the state of Minnesota. Baltimore, we'll be playing the Ravens on the road. Should be a fun game. Cincinnati, got I know a couple of 12s down there. They're going to be looking forward to that ball game. And Dallas, yes, we're going to be going to Jerry's World, so I'm assuming the 12s will take over that building as well, just like we do most, and that should be a very exciting one. Of course, there's the annual NFC West here and there series with the Cards, 49ers, and Rams, so hey, lots to do, but that's who we're going to be playing next year. Now, getting into a couple of statistics that are just, fascinating. No team that trailed a division leader by as many as 3 games entering Week 12, as the Seahawks did, have rebounded to finish first. The Seahawks team is the first team to ever accomplish this goal. Only 2 teams have ever done it from a 2-game deficit, the 2008 San Diego Chargers and the 2012 Washington Redskins, which I think is just, again, we've talked a lot about this winning streak, these last 5-6 games now where this team has really transcended what we thought they were based on some of the middle parts of this season. It's really amazing stuff, folks. Then we're going to talk a lot about some of these stats throughout the episode tonight. The power rankings of the various news services, obviously I've talked a lot about some of the ones out there from ESPN, Cover 32, the SB Nation crew. Everybody's got their own version, but I obviously follow Brian Nemhauser's Hawk Blogger as kind of my go-to. And, just to give everyone the rankings, the Hawks are number 1 in a lot of them, but in Brian's Hawk Blogger, we are number 3, still with Green Bay and Denver ahead of us. Green Bay being first, Denver being second. Again, I care very little about most of these rankings. until the end of the season. The only poll that probably matters is the one that's holding up the scaffolding for the stage when the Lombardi Trophy is handed over, hopefully us, at the end of the year. I expect that that team, again, will be our Seattle Seahawks, but, again, lots to get through in the meantime over the next month. Seattle is the first team to ever finish atop the DVOA rankings 3 years in a row since the Cowboys from 1992 to 1994 accomplished this goal. This is according to Football Outsiders. The Seahawks also finished number one in defensive DVOA for the second straight season, first since the 1993 through 1994 Steelers. Lastly, the Seahawks finished in the top 5 for rushing DVOA all time. Yeah, that's right, all time. This is very much helped out by Russell Wilson's big year of 849 yards of an average of 7.2 yards per carry. Jim Harbaugh is officially gone from San Francisco and officially the head man of the Big Blue in Michigan. It's both, I think, a sad and happy moment as a football fan for me. He's an outstanding coach. I have much respect for him. I think he's still a very goofy individual. But he is what really made this rivalry with San Francisco so special. It's too bad, I think, with him on worry about the competitiveness of what's going to happen.
I really don't think rivalries ever go away, especially one as dark as the one we have with the opposite side to the south. I also think it's also going to be a good thing. I think as a sentimental person, like Michigan, it's a fantastic get. It's one that will make them one of the powers in college football once again. I think the college football universe is strengthened from this move, and it's going to be very dynamic. It's going to be very interesting to follow how this evolves dynamically over the next few years. The Seahawks divisional round games will take place. I mentioned this a little earlier. Saturday, January 10th. The time is 5:15 p.m. We should have a raucous crowd at the Clink for sure. Going to be just unbelievable environment and atmosphere once again. The last of the quick takes tonight, and I think just kind of a little off the beaten path, but our punter, Scotsman, Canadian, heavy-footed individual that he is, John Ryan, is engaged now to comedian Sarah Colonna. And what's so interesting about these two is they met on Twitter, of all places. And so just a big congratulations out there to John and Sarah from the 12s. Fantastic. Good luck. Hope let's just say the party that you guys have at your ceremony, and I don't know exactly when you're doing it, but if it's this summer, is one that can be shared after winning another ring and another Lombardi in the old case of awards. Okay, well, let's go ahead and keep jumping ahead because, again, we do have Ollie Connolly joining us at a little after the bottom of the hour, and still a lot to get to. And my commentary for this evening, and I called it Repeat, and that is repeat as in R-E-P-E-T-E, folks. You probably get the gist. Pete Carroll is a genius. Maybe not the Stephen Hawking or Albert Einstein type genius most think of, but a genius on directing others on how to maximize their potential. Once he became the head man at USC, it's been a success story after success story. Check out some of these accomplishments. The Associated Press 2004 National Championship Team. 7 consecutive Associated Press top 4 finishes. 6 BCS Bowl victories. 7 consecutive BCS Bowl appearances. A national record 33 consecutive weeks as the Associated Press #1 team. A winning record of 97-19 and a winning percentage of 83.6. A winning record of 14-2 against traditional rivals, including Notre Dame and UCLA. An NCAA record of 63 straight 20-point games. 25 first-team All-Americans. 53 players selected in the NFL draft, including 14 in the first round. 3 Heisman Trophy winners, Carson Palmer in 2002, Matt Leinart in 2004, and Reggie Bush in 2005. 4 top 5 recruiting classes.
34-game winning streak from 2003 to 2004. Winning streaks for home games, 21, and Pac-10 home games of 17. A 25-1 record in the month of November, the 1 month in college football that probably matters the most. And again, he did this over 116 games in 9 years at USC, going 97-19. Just incredibly impressive. And again, this is all before he became the head honcho of our Seattle Seahawks. In fact, if you go back in the past, you'd be shocked to see his career in coaching. It goes so far back to his alma mater at Pacific. This is a man that really, truly went through it all to figure out who he is and what he's about. He's continued his winning ways these last 5 years as the head man here in Seattle. 80 games as a Seahawks head coach. He's won 50, lost 30, along with 3 divisional titles and the first Lombardi Trophy for this franchise. At 63, the second oldest coach in the NFL to the Giants' Tom Coughlin. Yes, he always does look perplexed. It's amazing to see how engaged and youthful Pete demonstrates his exuberance daily. Pete Carroll is a winner. He's cracked the code on how to be the best at all levels. It seems to maybe some as maybe a little bit too player-friendly, maybe goofy at times. Regardless, once he has the players and organization around him buy into the win forever, always compete philosophies, the skies are truly the limit. Ironically, many of his opponents' teams couldn't stand the guy. I mean, honestly, before he became coach, I myself was included in that group. But that seems like a distant memory. Eventually, he won us all over, and now we sit in the precipice of repeating as champions in the hardest league to do so in this world, the NFL. The team is playing its best, maybe even better than last year, as it enters the second season. Once again, it's the number 1 seed in the NFC, the road to Glendale going straight through our clink. The most difficult environment to play in the world with the loudest fans on the planet. I still think the Chiefs cheated. Many of the checks you want as fans to have on your side of the ledger are marked off for this team. The 12s now ready themselves for more uncharted territory, a repeat championship. The question I pose to you is this accomplishment more about the players or is it about the coach? Personally, I think none of it would have been possible without Pete Carroll. He's a visionary, a master craftsman of his trade. How lucky we are to have him leading this franchise. It seems like there'll never be enough tea in China to send Paul Allen as thanks for making this move. We are in the middle of something so rare and special. All I can say is drink up, enjoy it. A repeat is underway. Well, that is my commentary for this evening, and I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns about anything I say, you can always shoot me a message over the social media sites I've mentioned prior, as well as shoot me an email at 12412s@gmail.com. That's 12FOR12S@gmail.com. All right, our first sponsor of this evening as we go ahead and take a quick break and then come back, get into the Hawks 12, and then again, just after the bottom of the hour, be joined by Ollie Connolly of UKEndZone. Very excited for that. Is Sam's Tavern. Heading downtown to watch a Seahawks game, only a couple left, or hang out with some friends. Well, think about hitting Sam's Tavern on 1st and Pike in Pike Place, the home of the Red Robin hamburger, great eats, good beer, awesome people. Take a load off and enjoy your time at Sam's Tavern. You'll be glad you did. Check out the Bloody Mary Bacon Masterpiece. Burger and Bloody Mary combined. Yeah, well, not, technically together, just a stick through the burger on top of the Bloody Mary. Nonetheless, it's delicious. Go ahead and get yourself one, as well as a multitude of other items on that menu. I'll tell you, you'll be glad you did. Tell them Double OT sent you. You never know what they might give you. I've mentioned quite a few items. Not sure if any of them have ever been gotten, but I'll tell you, since it's close to the New Year's, you might as well say, hey, Double OT or Paul Beyer sent you. You never know. You might get extra whipped cream on your Sunday. Okay. We're going to take a quick break. We are going to come back, and we're going to get into the Hawks 12 like I mentioned prior. We have just a ton to get into tonight, like I said earlier, and our guest is going to be the great Ollie Connolly from UKEndZone, NFL UKEndZone, which is just going to be a fantastic interview segment. So let's go ahead and get going to break. We'll be right back. This is 12 for 12's Radio. Your host, Paul Beyer, as we always do. Going out to break the first one. It's a shout-out to my buddy Norb Cowili, some of his great stuff over at NorbCam. You can check it out on YouTube and Vimeo. NorbCam, Norb Cowili, fantastic stuff. Here is We Got Your Back.
Seahawks, we got your back, yeah. Seahawks, we got that swag, yeah. Defense, go get that sack, and we will be screaming so loud my ears are ringing. Opponents are for starting, like flies they will be dropping. Now throw it, Russell Wilson. A punt we turn by Golden. Amazing catch by Baldwin. Another pick by Sherman. We are the 12th man. We are the loudest fans. Seahawks, we got your back, yeah. Seahawks, we got that swag, They call him Beast Mode, powered by Skittles. You got no shot, there he goes. And now he's in the end zone. Boy, what were you thinking? You must be dreaming. Seahawks unleash the demon. You can't throw at the Legion. It is our destiny to win the Lombardi. Seattle's gonna party. All we got, all we need. Yo, we got, yo, we need, yo, we got, yo, we need, yo, we got, yo, we need. Yo, we got, yo, we need, yo, we got, yo, we need, yo, we got, yo, we need.
Welcome back. This is 12 for 12's Radio. Your host, Paul Beyer, on a 30th day of December 2014. This is when this is recorded live. I hope those that are listening live are enjoying themselves, but also getting ramped up for tomorrow night, New Year's Eve across the world. 2015, here we come. And the question really is, will the Seahawks become champions of the NFL once again, holding that big old trophy down at the VMAC? Keeping it here, let's just say. All right. Well, we got the Hawks 12 and our buddy Ollie Connolly coming on after the bottom of the hour, about 10 minutes from now. So let's get rolling. Number one of the Hawks 12, 6 in a row. The run to this, I guess the end of this season, seems almost really implausible in my opinion. Besides redirecting and the sinking ship, the Hawks went 3-3. Well, they were at 3-3, and then 6-4 to ultimately becoming 12-4. Winning the last 6 games of the season. But not just winning, I think, impressively winning against the toughest stretch of any NFL team that any NFL team had to go through this year. I think additionally, they left marks that are, I think, going to be bestowed among only the greats. The 85 Bears, who were actually better in 86 after losing Wilbur Marshall. I think most people, including myself, feel that was probably the dagger that sunk them. But believe it or not, the 86 Bears going 14-2, losing in the divisional round to, I believe it was the 49ers, but I could be wrong. I think the point is the Steel Curtain. You had the Steel Curtain of 75-76, the Vikings Purple People Eaters. These are all stats that are truly amazing when you look at them all in context. They allowed only 3 touchdowns or 1 every 8 quarters of the 39 points the defense gave up in these last 6 games. To get that in context, the last season Seahawks in the final 6 games of a regular season, they allowed 72. Chuck Knox, a 1990 team, he surrendered 80 as a 5-1 season-ending run. Carroll's 2012 club and Mike Holmgren's 2005 Super Bowl runner-ups both allowed 84. So when you really put that in context of 39 points, I mean, it's just unbelievable. The 85 Bears featured what most claim as the best defense in the last 30 years. They allowed 71 points in their final 6 games. Obviously, we see how that compares to that 39. The other defenses, the greats I mentioned, the 2000 Ravens, the 2002 Buccaneers, they allowed 60 and 77, respectively. Looking at the Super Bowl era since 1966, only 7 teams have allowed fewer than 50 points in their final 6 games. The 76 Steelers, which I know John Clayton of ESPN thinks of as the greatest defense, and he's a Steelers fan, just so everyone knows, but he considers that the greatest defense, and they have the numbers to back it up. Their last 6 games allowing 22 points. The 75 Rams, which were coached by Chuck Knox, they allowed 32 points in their last 7 games. And then there's the 2014 Seahawks, 39. Really, really amazing stuff. By allowing the Rams the 6 points they got and the 245 yards in this last game of the season, the Seahawks became the 4th franchise since the World War II to lead the NFL in fewest points, 15.9 points per game, yards, 267.1 yards per game, in consecutive seasons, and the first since the 85-86 Chicago Bears. They also became the 3rd franchise following the 53-57 Cleveland Browns, yes, they used to be good there, and the 69-71 Purple People Eater Minnesota Vikings to lead the league in scoring defense at least 3 years in a row. Seattle has allowed just 202 yards per game during this streak, 136 passing and 66 rushing. Phenomenal numbers. Ultimately, many of Seattle's numbers were better than last season. The average of 267.1 yards allowed this season was 6.5 yards better than the 2013 team of 273.6, as was the rushing average of 81.5 versus 101.6 in 2013. Each of those obviously being franchise records. And we remember last year had some of those key games in the middle of the season giving up a couple hundred yards back-to-back. Rams, Buccaneers. Yeah, we remember. The rushing yards bested the 2005 team, which held the record of 94.4, obviously by now 13 yards, bettering that number. No team that trailed the division leader, and again, this is just from a team's perspective in the wins, no team that trailed the division leader by as many as 3 games entering Week 11 as the Seahawks did have rebounded ever to win their division. The Seahawks are now the first. Only a few franchises, only 2, the 2008 San Diego Chargers and 2012 Washington Redskins ever rebounded to win their division, and that was a 2-game deficit. Finally, since 2002, 67 teams have sported a 6-4 record entering Week 11. 67 teams. 35 of those 67 teams missed the playoffs. Really, it is remarkable what we did 6 in a row. The run that this Hawks team did, and changing itself, its perspective, roundabout in such a way that it's striking to see where they've come now. Let's go ahead and get to the injury report. Defensive tackle Jordan Hill sprained left knee, and safety Jerron Johnson dislocated elbow. It looked painful. He was screaming out there on the field this past week. Are both injured, and we do expect both of them not to practice this week. But again, there is a chance they may be back for the first game of the divisional round. Again, we don't know who we're playing yet, but there's a chance Jordan Hill and Jerron Johnson could get back. That's a good thing. Linebacker K.J. Wright dislocated his finger against the Rams, and wide receiver Jermaine Kearse, who was held out of the game with the hamstring injury he suffered against the Cardinals in Week 16. They should both be ready to go, so no issues there. Also, cornerback Tharold Simon, shoulder injury. Max Unger, who's been out, obviously, with his knee and ankle, that severe ankle sprain. And tight end Cooper Helfett, his ribs. both of those gentlemen, defensive lineman DeMarcus Dobbs, who's been out also the last few games with an ankle, all are expected to be back in time for game on the 10th of January. So we're going to have everybody back. It should be a full locker room, and we should be at max capacity. So overall, bye couldn't have come at a better time. Now you think about how we got our bye this year, a couple of long weeks with Thursday games. Maybe it all is going to work out at the end. So let's just keep on trucking. All right, next commercial break, then we're going to come back with our guest. Ollie Connolly is going to be joining us from UKEndZone. Very excited for that. So let's go ahead and just mention our sponsor, Enlighten. Enlighten, the next big thing. I've found the next big thing, Enlighten Strips. This is an amazing product, one that I personally use, from helping provide an energy boost during a busy day or to recovery from electrolytes while working out. Enlighten Strips really do work. I use the sleep strips every night. After taking the prescribed dose, I read for about an hour or so, and I fall asleep comfortably. This is coming from a guy who used to struggle with relaxing before bed. Additionally, they have strips for appetite suppression, providing antioxidants. These can make a difference in your life. Very convenient and affordable while being safe for all ages. No sugars, carbs, or calories. Go to enlighten.com. That's ENLYTEN.com. today and find the right strips for you. You'll be amazed with the results. Enlighten. They are the next big thing. Okay, we're going to take our next break, come back with our guest tonight, Ollie Connolly from UKEndZone.com. Looking forward to this conversation, so don't go anywhere. This is 12 Patrols Radio. Your host, Paul Beyer. Be back in just a sec. the immortal words of Europe, the band, this is the final countdown of the 2015 NFL season. For those, the 12 teams that have now qualified for the playoffs, it's going to get only more interesting as the drama heats up. I am now joined here on 1212 Radio with my guest this evening, Ollie Connolly from UKEndZone.com and multiple podcasts. Ollie, how are you doing this evening?
Hi, Paul. How are you doing? I'm doing well, thank you.
Very, very good. Hopefully I haven't taken you away from all kinds of fun stuff as you get ramped up yourself for New Year's.
Well, we've just approached the 25 to 4 in the morning mark here, which usually involves even more tape watching for the upcoming NFL draft.
Fantastic. Well, let's get going. I know this is an international show today, so I've gone international. And I guess to start with, most people who haven't maybe heard of you before, I'm one of those guys that goes all over the internet and finds out all kinds of stuff about people. Yeah, no, not in a creepy way, but you're someone that does talk NFL and does some great stuff. Why don't you just take a few minutes to introduce yourself to the listeners and tell them a little about the stuff you do, the work you do, and UKEndZone.
Yeah, well, I have the greatest job in the world. They send me game tapes. I get to sit and watch game tapes, and then they allow me to talk about it on the radio. They allow me to host a podcast and write about it. I mean, I started this thing a few years ago. You know, I used to travel to Boston out with my dad, and I got into the American culture massively at a young age. Followed the Patriots, followed the Celtics, followed Boston College was the team that I fell in love with the most. And I came back, and what I would do is I would just go on Microsoft Word as a young guy before I knew what a blog was, and I would just write a daily sports column. Every day I would write a daily sports column and read it to myself and send it to myself and just create my own newspaper. Then someone had this great idea that you can now put it online and share it with people, so I did that. People started to enjoy it and follow it. I shared it with other people, met Ted Sundquist, the former general manager of the Broncos, who has 2 of those Lombardi trophies, which people seem to want. And he took me on board to help him with his website, thefootballeducator.com. That got me talking to the Scouting guys and Todd McShane. I do some work for them and Scouts Opium right now. So they're the guys that I really do most of the work with. Then with UKEndZone, we write a ton. We took on a whole bunch of British writers, European writers, as well as American writers, and just grown the thing exponentially to now have a ton of podcasts, the biggest podcast network for sport over here in the UK, and the biggest independent site outside of Pro Football Focus, which is probably more of just an independent site rather than an independent British site.
So, I mean, you're the perfect guy to talk to. I think most Americans have been wondering why we have games over in England. And, you know, there is a huge group of fans over there for NFL football. Why don't you just talk a little bit about that and, you know, that it is such a big deal over there.
It's a huge deal. I maybe am not the best guy to talk about it because I don't believe in them as much myself as some people maybe expect or anticipate. I don't want to be stealing any home games from season ticket holders, in all honesty. But look, there's a huge following here. It's one of the highest grossing and growing sports in the entire nation. It grows day by day. And I think what the misrepresentation is, and I think that comes through more from the media in America, just through maybe some laziness with the national guys and then through maybe some endeavor of the NFL themselves, is to make it a British thing, which when you come here and you go to those games, it's more of a European and world event. People travel to London, it's accessible. They come for a weekend, for a holiday, they take in the football. I mean, it is just flooded with German people, French people, Scandinavian people. It is huge across the continent of Europe, not just Britain, which I think is maybe the misrepresentation in the actual series itself. It is the international series, not the London series. I think that maybe is the misrepresentation. This just has a huge following. You know, it's like having its own state, and we get to have these great teams, and then it's just fun to get the big name teams.
And we could probably have a whole nother episode talking about the idea of creating franchises over there. And we'll save that for another day, my friend. But let's talk with our limited time we do have tonight. Let's talk this playoffs, this 2014 NFL season, and just to get some perspective from you, what do you think were the biggest stories of this 2014 season?
Well, I guess you have to start with the off-the-field stuff, unfortunately. Goodell and his whole commissionership, how his premiership is going down, Ray Rice, Adrian Peterson. That's more of the worst side. The storylines that I've loved the most, I think J.J. Watt this year has transcended himself beyond a football player and has taken himself into just being his own lexicon of now we just call it J.J. Watting. That is a J.J. Watt moment. He's now his own beast to the point where we should just give him his own award and forget about other things, and we have maybe a non-quarterback MVP award that we call the J.J. Watt Award in 10 years' time or what have you. I think that's a great storyline. I also thought the most interesting storyline, that I know it's got a ton of press attention, but I think almost in the wrong way, is the Jim Harbaugh situation. Is so bizarre. I know on a 12's podcast, maybe not the best thing to bring up, but this is a guy who, this is the most unique situation I've ever seen, okay, because this guy has a 71% win ratio, okay, has never lost anywhere in his career, yet mutually they agreed to separate. And I just cannot figure this situation out for love and money. This is one of the most storied franchises in the NFL. They have a ton of money, a ton of talent, maybe the wrong guy at the key position, but you can figure that out. A very successful head coach, and somehow they come to a decision where he's now going to college football. And it is staggering to me that we're not all pulling our hairs out going, what has just happened here?
Yeah, look, I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm obviously not a 49ers fan in any way, shape, or form, but I completely respect what Jim Harbaugh does as a head coach. And, granted, he didn't maybe put all that talent under the same roof, but he's molded them into the team they are. And in my opinion, one of the scariest teams for the Seattle Seahawks to play just because they match up so well. And again, a lot of subject there and to discuss. We'll get into that in the off season. How about that? But this season still, there's been a lot of great stories with I think the rookie class, especially the wide receiver group. Mike Evans, Kelvin Benjamin, Odell Beckham has obviously become a household name with, I think, perhaps the greatest catch ever I've seen. And I saw that live. Three fingers. He caught that damn ball with 3 fingers. But also the quarterbacks, which continue to be a story in the draft, obviously being the leading men. Bortles, Manziel, Carr weren't necessarily world beaters by any stretch, and then maybe the best of them being Bridgewater. Who are a few of the players that, in your opinion, of the rookie class that stood out and are going to be studs, and maybe some of those that you think are going to end up being duds?
I think, you have the obvious you mentioned there. Mike Evans, I think, is so elite. It's going to be scary in 5 years to see where he progresses to. And probably the same can go with Odell Beckham, because I don't know how you actually defend Odell Beckham. He doesn't play inside for someone of his size as much as you would anticipate when you go and watch this tape and you go and see the breakdown. He plays more outside, so it's scary on how you can actually defend him. Other guys, Aaron Donald has just been a monster in St. Louis. I don't know how that guy fell in the draft the way he did. It annoyed me at the time. It annoys me still. And I think some of the guys maybe people haven't heard of as much. I think E.J. Gaines at St. Louis was a third-round pick. I think he's going to be a real good number 2 cornerback. If they can get a true number 1 guy in there, he's going to become more of a big name. Joel Bitonio maybe in Cleveland. I think he had a real good start to the season. You look at the way their offensive line is set up with Thomas, Mack, and you had Bitonio on the left side as well. They ran that zone scheme. It was really effective, and it's just a shame that they went away from that and they have the injuries there. I guess the 2 guys I had on my rookie rankings of UKEndZone.com, 1 and 2, all season long, I think they should stay there. Maybe you can push Odell Beckham in, but he hasn't played the full 16 games. Khalil Mack is just a stud and more versatile than I thought he would be. And then C.J. Mosley has been maybe the 2nd or 3rd best middle linebacker in all of football, and he's a rookie. I think he's been spectacular.
I did mention someone there, and we didn't necessarily talk about the man who's taking the snaps in Cleveland, but Johnny Manziel. I could go on about this guy forever, and I'm not going to sit here and say I was right because I was right. Yeah, I did say it, I guess. But the point is that this guy's it's just one thing after another. And I just, from your perspective, I'd love to get your opinion on what do you think of Johnny Manziel?
Well, I was a huge defender of him coming out of the draft. I didn't go down the youth route. I think that is a dumb route to take in an evaluation process to say they're young mistakes. I thought the mistakes he was making would be addressed by becoming a pro. Things like taking money, things like doing things on campus that will not happen when you get to the pro level. And I was just wrong. The guy is just essentially a jackass, and he said so himself. He's dumb. It's got nothing to do with youth. It's got so much to do with thinking you're above the law. To throw a party, whether we threw the party or not, okay, that's a debatable point. We can't figure out what happened there. He was at a party with other teammates who said he texted them, okay? That's at least what we can get out of this. 2 days before the end of the regular season, man. It's like, wait 4 days. Your season is done. Throw whatever you want in the off-season. Get yourself cut by the Browns. But to do it 2 days before the end of the regular season was absolutely shameful. And the Browns have got a huge decision on their hands. You also look at their second first round. Justin Gilbert is a disaster. And you look at what they could have done in the draft. They could have taken Odell Beckham Jr. where they were, not traded down, and then gone and taken Teddy Bridgewater, who I think is going to be really good at the back end of the first round. And they just killed that draft class, and that is going to be one of the worst draft classes for an individual team of all time, just through those first two first-round picks. And
on the flip side, you think of a team like the Rams, who I think I think they took a great step in the right direction with the foundation. I think Jeff Fisher's doing a great job, and again, I think they would have been one of the scariest teams in especially our division, if Bradford and some of the other guys had remained healthy. Losing Chris Long for most of the season obviously hurt, but let's get into the playoffs here. AFC side, and New England, and I know you're a Patriots guy, but I am really interested to hear your perspective on this. But New England and Denver are going to be obviously very tough to beat. Who do you think is going to end up playing them in the divisional round? So who do you think is going to win the wild card games, and actually you think has an actual chance to beat one of those two teams?
Well, I think right now the scariest team in the AFC, and I know the Patriots have come in with a ton of momentum. People still love Denver for what their defense has done this year and how that's improved. I think the scariest team right now, if you just line up on the field, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's kind of clouded because of the Le'Veon Bell situation. And will he play? What will his status be as we go forward? We don't really know. But I don't know how you defend Antonio Brown. And if there's a player on the field offensively who just can't defend, I don't know how you figure that thing out. And they will get to you defensively. They will find a way. They're terrible on the back end, but they will find a way up front to get pressure in your face. It's the one thing Tom Brady can't handle. It's the one thing no quarterback can handle outside of these guys who can maneuver around like your guy Russell Wilson and maybe buy himself some extra time. So I don't know how anyone's going to handle Pittsburgh down the stretch unless you just blow the doors off them defensively, where fortunately for the Patriots they have Rob Gronkowski. So I see Pittsburgh cruising past Baltimore this weekend. It's a horrible matchup for Baltimore. The other game is really you just flip a coin and figure that one out, because is Dalton going to show up in prime time for the second time in his career? How is Andrew Luck going to fare? I'm in this weird paradox of the Colts that no one is discussing, where they may be the best team with a bad coach. And no one wants to say Chuck Pagano is a bad coach because he's a real nice guy. It's a horrid story. They'd be backdated. But you look at what that team is and how much Luck carries them and how much Bruce Arians influenced Luck in the early goings. And I don't know what Chuck Pagano actually brings to that team. I really don't. So that's an interesting dynamic with two coaches there in Cincinnati and Indianapolis who maybe aren't that good with teams in the playoffs.
Tom Brady looked very old early this season, but after that KC game, the debacle in Kansas City, he really found his groove. Not to steal a line from a major motion picture, but Peyton Manning on the flip side has really looked different. He's looked his age these last few weeks, and his ball seems to be fluttering a little bit more. You know, I know Richard Sherman called it a duck at the Super Bowl in the media week time. How much longer do you think these two can still compete at a level that we all expect of them?
How long can they? I think they can probably go those two as long as they wanted to because of how much they do pre-snap. I mean, realistically, I think Manning, it's this year and next year. Brady could probably go at a very good level where he improves the offense and he guarantees you 9 to 10 wins a season. I would say he could easily do 4 more. And it may sound like Patriots homerism, but with both of them, to be honest with you, I think if it's a title, they'll walk away. I think if Brady won a title this year, he would not be adverse to walking away. He just changed his contract to non-guarantee it to performance. I mean, this guy is, married to a woman who's making more money than he is in a second. He can walk away from this game in an instant. I think if either of them win another title, they walk that season. Otherwise, Peyton goes next year, and I think Tom will at some point play for another franchise.
Do you, and I know we didn't put this in the show notes, but I'd love to get your perspective. I know you're a Patriots guy, but Bill Belichick, I respect the heck out of him and what he's obviously done in his career. He's a fantastic mind of the game. Other than maybe Nick Saban and maybe even Pete Carroll, I think he's probably the best of all of them. Just a few words on really what he's been able to do, not just turning around this season, but in his career as the Patriots coach.
I mean, it's probably the most interesting and extraordinary coaching job of all time. And I say that because of the era in which he's done it, being the salary cap, being free agency, being all these different things, and the fact that he has missed in the draft, I want to say 50 times. He's had just flat-out busts in the draft. I mean, to build a team when you don't draft well is so interesting and fascinating to me that they can pull guys like Joe Villano off the streets that no one has ever heard of and would never play for another team to be this two-gap defensive force who plays 50 snaps a game is just phenomenal. I cannot figure out how they do it. I don't think anyone will ever be able to figure out or replicate it. And I think that goes to when people talk about Bill's coaching tree, although, again, you mentioned Nick Saban there, and he does come from the Bill Belichick coaching tree that no one ever discusses, that Nick Saban was in that. I think that goes to that point. He's just the most interesting mind, I think, that there's been in football in definitely a long time, and maybe ever. And when you factor in, again, salary cap, things of that nature, just the modern age of players and how they've gone about things compared to other teams, it's probably the most extraordinary coaching job on its own.
Well, let's move over to our team, my team, that is, the Seahawks. And I called it the tale of two teams because really this season was really a tale of two different stories. The Hawks started hot, fell off with this, I call it the Percy funk, for about 6 weeks. And then I think I described it as the phoenix rising from the ashes earlier in my commentary. We roared out of the depths of mediocrity to win 6, I think, dominating games in a row against the toughest rated NFL schedule at the time, going into it, mind you. How good, in your opinion, are these Seahawks, and do you feel like they're as feared as they were going into the playoffs of 2013?
I think if they're not, then the teams that aren't fearing them are going to be in for a rude awakening when they go into the link to face the Seahawks team. This is an all-time great team, and I don't like to use the word great too often. I know we just mentioned Belichick, so I may come across as a guy of hyperbole, but I think this is an all-time great team. When I go and look at Football Outsiders, who I respect like crazy, and see their DVOA numbers for the Seahawks team, it is unbelievable what they have been able to do. And when you talk about, this isn't a team that's just come into the season and we've seen them go 15-1, they had a slip-up or what have you. They were in a bad place, in a dark place where people talk about missing the playoffs. What is going on in the locker room? Did they not even like Russell Wilson, who's apparently the nicest guy on the planet, and so they find a way to fall out with him? We were discussing all this, and then they flip a switch, which kind of helps when you have the best middle linebacker in the world, you have the best safety combination in the world, you have one of the best cornerbacks in the world. That kind of helps, but that goes to what Pete Carroll has done, what he's implemented there, and the change in mindset, which you will see through the snap count if you go back through those tapes, to change from the previous year of defensive rotation up front. We've got 5 to 6 real good guys. We're going to rotate them in on a rotational basis and keep them fresh enough left to say, no more. We're just going to go with our studs. Let's throw Ben out there. Let's throw Averill out there. Let's go and get it. To change that defensive philosophy in season, which just shows you a stroke of genius. That's what the great ones do, is they figure it out through the first 8 weeks. They change it for the second, and they just come out and crush everyone. And it's unbelievable what they've done.
You kind of answered a little bit about my next question, and I talked about it in my commentary about Pete Carroll. And, you know, he's been coaching forever since he finished his playing days in a small school out in San Francisco Pacific. But Pete Carroll really has his own way of doing things. It's unique to him. Granted, it's very similar to many of those greats that you've mentioned. But this team, this combination of players and maybe scheme and then also, you know, Carroll and how he does things, he organizes things. Who do you think deserves the most credit? And maybe not the most, but maybe in what hierarchy would you say the credit goes to in this turnaround for the Seahawks this season?
Well, I think when you see a turnaround in season, it is the most... It shows the mass populace of fans how important a good coach is. Because if you have that team with a different coach, and even if I throw Bill Belichick on that team I think spirals out of control because it was so much about attitude and personality at that time with the Harvin trade, with everything that was swirling around them for 3 weeks. It's a fascinating coaching job, and he's just a special guy. What helps with him, and you find this more and more as we look at these top coaches now in both pro ball and in college ball, defensive back coaches are just becoming the premium guys. Look at what Nick Saban is doing, defensive back coach. I love Earl Thomas. I think he's a top 5 football player, period. That's how good I think Earl Thomas is. And Chancellor, and you look at Sherman. Are these guys great defensive backs? I believe they are, but Pete Carroll is such a good coach. You could convince me that these guys are pretty good, and he's just made them almost Hall of Fame worthy, at least 2 of them. That's how good he is on the backside. You throw in Wagner, who's one of the best linebackers in the entire planet, and then again the 2 pass rushers. It has been a coaching job. This has been a coaching job. The players have been there. They've moved a couple out. Some of them got healthy. This has been a coaching job, and the players are great. But the players were great when we turned up to training camp in day 1. This has been a coaching job.
Another question I didn't necessarily put on the sheet, but it comes to my mind here is this whole Percy Harvin thing and how it you call it a failed experiment, whatever. But the fact is that a guy with so much talent, physical talent and skill set, it seems like he has problems everywhere he goes. I'd love to get your opinion on what's wrong with Percy Harvin.
Well, that's a great question. That's going to befuddle many general managers past, and it's going to befuddle some in the future who try and acquire him and think that they're the guys that can fix him. I honestly don't know. And look, I'm a Florida Gators fan. I follow them closely. So I've had a lot of close stuff with Percy Harvin. I can't figure it out myself. I have no idea. What it did for me, the whole story, was prove my great theory that it's a shambles, this notion that you have to be a real close-knit team to win team championships. I think that people like to say that because it sounds good and it feels good, and it obviously helps if you're good friends with the guy in the locker room. But I look at those Jordan Bulls team and they hated each other, and those Laker Kobe and Shaq teams, they didn't like each other. I read a story that the night before the Super Bowl, punches are being thrown, and I see one of the best Super Bowl performances and teams of all time. You do not have to love each other. You have to have the best talent on the field. You have to have one of the best coaches, and you can win the thing. And I think that's what I liked about the story. But as for the guy himself, I think he's cost himself so much money and so much respect. I can't get into those guys' heads when stuff like that happens.
And it goes to the Manziel, it goes to these other guys that have talent, but just it seems like they throw it all away for nothing. None of us can figure out. All right, let's get into the NFC, the rest of the NFC here, and there are, I think, 3 very good teams with vastly different strengths in this playoff. And I think Dallas is obviously their O-line, their running game, the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, need you say any more? And then there's the Seahawks, which have a pretty good defense. But the question is, in my opinion to you, who do you like and why?
Well, I like the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks, they're the team. Home field advantage is key. We've seen them against the Packers before. So I would have them as far and away. I don't think it's close right now how much I would have the Seahawks. And that's not just because I'm here and you've invited me on. I would have them way in a far ahead because it's just a third down football team. I don't know how you can convert on third down when your number one guy is tied up with Sherman, when the safety help from Chancellor, Earl Thomas is ball hawking, Bobby Wagner's in the middle to stop the run, and you have a big bodies up front with Mebe and those boys. I don't know how you can convert on third down. Then on offense, I don't know how you stop Russell Wilson on third down. All you do is hand the ball to Marshall Lynch, one of the best backs in the nation. He gets it for what? We get it to 3rd and 3, and we're happy, and we're going to convert with Russell Wilson, put him in the gun on third down. He will find a way to get it for you. I don't know how you stop that. I really don't know how you stop that. And the only way I can see it happening, realistically, is if the Packers come in and somehow, given how good Aaron Rodgers, they blow the doors off in the first quarter, they get up 17-0, and then it's an uphill struggle for the Seahawks, who aren't as good coming from behind as maybe some other teams. That is the only realistic way that I can see it happening, is if somehow the Packers just blow the doors from the first quarter.
It's you're not going to beat us deep. The big play. I mean, I'm a big toxic stat guy. Brian Billick's toxic stat differential, turnover, and big play. And the Seahawks once again lead the NFL in big plays, but they don't give any big plays up. That's why they consistently have been able to lead this thing, usually by a pretty good margin. You talk about what's the diagram. I think the diagram is what the San Diego Chargers did to us in Game 2 of this season, and that is you've got to get to short yardage on third down. And at the same time, flip side, getting to the offense, you have to keep us in a long down to go on third down. So we've got to be in 8, 9, 10 yards to go. Now, we've also been one of the best teams in the league this year in converting with that type of yardage to go on third down, but it's that's the formula. You've got to put us in that scenario, and you've got to get us off the field on offense and win the time of possession. And that's what San Diego was able to do. That's what Dallas was able to do. And Dallas's running game and that offensive line scares the holy living molasses out of me. Just your thoughts on this Dallas, I guess, rejuvenation, because nobody saw this coming. How one, did it happen? And two, should they be feared in any way, shape, or form? Just from a matchup standpoint.
Yeah, I think you have to fear them because of that run game if DeMarco is 100% healthy, and given the fact that they too are a third down team, Tony Romo was so spectacular in this league, and no one gives him any credit because of the storylines, because he's Tony Romo. He's been so damn good this year, and you have Des Bryant on the outside. It's a difficult offense to handle. It's a difficult offense to stop. Defensively, they're a major concern. They're just not as good as everyone else in the playoffs, and that's going to be their Achilles heel, as will maybe a Romo, some of those guys, when we get into the playoffs. Let's see what they do now they get there, as well as Jason Garrett, who's still a bit of a fishy coach. How did they get there? I mean, you invest in an offensive line. You find something that other teams have tried and haven't been able to get together. You just congeal a unit of studs, first-round selections. You invest high, that being first-round selections, in those guys, and you have a top 10 quarterback. Look, you look at this playoff field now, and then you look at the coaches that just got fired the other day on Monday. They don't have quarterbacks. The only one that did was Matt Ryan. He didn't have an offensive line. You have to find the quarterback. Every single year in the playoffs, 95% of the teams will have good quarterbacks. You will get the anomaly. You'll get the Ryan Lindley guy where they threw in Drew Stanton, Carson Palmer, and somehow Drew Brees missed out. You will have that one, maybe two every year. But by and large, you have to have a good quarterback. And that's what Dallas has. They had a good quarterback. They found a way to protect him. They found a way to maximize what he does well, which is make plays on third down. And it's been impressive to watch. And you've got to wait for that 30 to 30 documentary about Stephen Jones pulling the Johnny Manziel card away from Jerry Jones. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that might go down in history as one of the greatest moves from a family member that used to clean his glasses, if I remember correctly. All right, let's last question of the night here, and then we'll get you back to bed maybe because you're so far away from me. But let's talk about the surprise teams. Maybe if there is a chance to be a surprise team of the rest of the NFC. You know, Carolina. I doubt the Cardinals, obviously, just with their quarterback woes. And then Detroit now with Sue now actually being able to play, which is kind of interesting. Maybe get your thoughts on that. But is there a surprise team in those other three that you think could maybe make a run?
A surprise team that could make a run. The Lions have a good shot because they can just get hot. And I'm not a Stafford believer, but he's good enough to play that sort of Flacco role for the Ravens a few years ago, where maybe he hits Calvin Johnson 3 times a game. They put up 17 points, and that defense is legit. Now, like you said, Sue is able to come back and play. They're going to get after people. They're going to be quick on defense. So they got a chance. They just have the Jim Caldwell factor. And when you throw Jim Caldwell into a playoff, anything could happen. And that's the great part about Jim Caldwell. So I know what they're going to do. Look, surprise teams in the NFC, it's not that surprising. I mean, the big surprise is the Cowboys that we just mentioned there. I didn't think in any way they had a shot at competing for the playoffs, let alone win the NFC and go 12-4. So that is enough of a surprise for me this year in the NFC.
I really think we all fell victim in that particular scenario of just believing the national pundits who said they suck and they were going to be the worst defense in the history of the NFL. Because if you look at that line, that front offensive line, I mean, they're unbelievably good. I mean, not just what we saw on the field, but they're extremely talented. They're big and they're fast and they beat people up. So I think I'm going to put the blame this season on the pundits, which I think we should actually blame most of the time. Unlike you, they actually look at the film and do the work that goes into finding out who are the guys and who are the teams that can play this game. But Ollie, I can't tell you how thankful I am for you to come on tonight, share 30 minutes with us, and talk through the playoffs, talk a little bit about the Hawks, and obviously I wish you the best of luck with your Patriots. Before you go, I'd love to just get your have you mention any of the sites and your obviously social media handles where people can find you and follow your great work.
Well, thank you, man. It's been a ton of fun, and best of luck to your Seahawks. It'd be fun if we had a meeting in Glendale, Arizona. Maybe we can do a radio show around them. If we're able to get what I want and what I pray for some bizarre reason, I would kind of like to face the Seahawks. I want to beat the best possible so we can get the Pat Seahawks. That'd be kind of fun. And you can check out all my stuff. Find it at UKEndZone.com. We're doing all the draft stuff now. All the podcasts. I think I do about 7 or 8, I think is the count right now, podcasts. So you can find them all up there. UKEndZone.com/podcast. You can find the links on the site. Twitter handle, OllieUKEZ is the place to find me on Twitter, or UKEndZone. You can find all through there. And thank you once again, man.
Hey, take care of yourself, and thank you for being on at this time, especially this time of the year, but also this time of the day. Be well, Ollie. Happy New Year, and we'll be talking to you down the road, okay?
Thank you, Paul.
All right, bye. All right, folks, that was Ollie Connolly from UKEndZone. Yes, you can follow his handle on Twitter at UKEndZone, and you can also follow him at Ollie, and that's Ollie. And I don't want to forget this, folks, because you never want to forget the exact handle. So let me get this out here just real quick. It's at Ollie UKEZ, at Ollie OLLIE UKEZ, and that's his handle on Twitter. And you can follow his work at UKEndZone.com. Fantastic stuff and great analysis from Ollie. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to come back and try to wrap up or go through the rest of the Hawks 12. We've got a lot to get to tonight. I hope everyone has thoroughly enjoyed the show to this point, and we will get this thing going once again after the bottom of the hour, after the top of the hour. But let's just go ahead and go to break here. 12 for 12's Radio, your host Paul Beyer. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll be right back. Hello, this is Paul from Double Overtime and the 12 for 12's radio show. I am proud to announce one of our sponsors, www.stickersnorthwest.com. Don't forget the www. All of us here at Double Overtime Radio are proud to announce our latest sponsor, www.stickersnorthwest.com. Creating some of the stickiest Seahawks, 12s, Mariners, Husky original designs to share with your friends or just your favorite book or folder. Some of the coolest local flair options you can find. Check out www.stickersnorthwest.com and make your purchase today. Don't forget to use promo code PAUL2OT and receive 20% off your next purchase. Do it today. You'll be sticky for sure. Again, that's www.stickersnorthwest.com. Remember to spell Stickers Northwest out. And also, when you use the promo code, it's PAUL2OT. Now, back to the program. Welcome back. This is 12 for 12's Radio, your host, Paul Beyer, and we are going to try to get through the rest of these Hawks 12 with the remaining time that we have this evening. Again, thanks to everyone that's joining us live and those that will be joining us on demand. This is the bye week, I guess, show, because there's no game to look forward or preview at this time, but we are going to take the time to go and look back at the Week 17 matchup to wrap up the 2014 regular season against the Little Baby Lambs from St. Louis. This is the offensive side. So let's go ahead and take a look at this offense and what we were able to accomplish. Again, I break down numbers a little differently than some. I don't count non-scoring potential scoring drives, like basically kneel down, things like that. So looking at the total numbers, the St. Louis Rams had 11 total drives. The Seahawks had 10. And I think what's so telling about not only just how well the defense is playing, but obviously I'm talking about the offense at this point in time, but the first thing that just struck me was, one, out of the Seahawks' 10 drives, we only had 2 3-and-outs or 4-and-outs. Remember, I count 4-play drives as well, and only 2 of them. And on the flip side, and this is the only time I'll do this comparison right now, but St. Louis had 6 out of 11 drives be 3- or 4-and-out drives. I mean, that's just amazing. And when you've got that type of defense playing on the other side of the ball for your offense, it's going to put you in a lot of game-winning scenarios. I guess that's probably why I wasn't as worried probably as most when we were down 6-0, especially at the half. I knew it was going to happen. I really wasn't worried at all. And I had that. I hate to say that, I'm knocking on wood, by the way. I had that same feeling I had last year when I was so confident in what they were doing. I never was really stressed about their potential to overcome whether it was they were down or a particular drive, like the final drive of the NFC Championship against San Francisco. And I just knew we were going to stop them. That team would not allow them to score. But continuing the offense here in this last game against the Rams, I know it's so easy to get off on a tangent, but the big plays, again, we are a big play team. I still see the national pundits, they still talk about how our offense is, I don't want to say inept, but maybe the pedestrian word comes out. But the fact is that we had 8 big plays in this game. Again, this is the Pete Carroll rule, which is 11 yards or greater on a run or 16 yards or greater on a pass reception. But when you compare this to the final numbers of this year, the Seahawks led the league in the toxic differential, which I have talked about before, and we had a total toxic plus differential of 76. Second place was Denver with a plus 53. And when you look at comparing the big play differential versus the turnover differential and so forth, but the big plays is really what I'm focusing on here. Seattle was plus 66. Plus 66. So their big plays versus the big plays they gave up on defense, we were plus 66 in the red. And the Denver Broncos, they were plus 48. We were clear of them by 18 big plays. And that's a big-time offense, right? Everyone thinks the biggest-time offense of all time. Green Bay, plus 23. And in the total numbers, I don't have them right in front of me, but I've looked at them. We led the entire NFL in big play numbers, regardless of the differential. So the Packers were second. I know that for a fact. But the Packers, plus 23. Their defense obviously gives up a tremendous amount of big plays. San Francisco 49ers, fourth with 25. Baltimore Ravens, again, down the list here, 26. Detroit Lions, plus 21. We are so much better at big plays, and one, not only getting them, but holding the other team on the differential from a defensive perspective, it's not even close. When you tag that in with our turnover differential, plus 10, obviously a lead, a plus 76 versus second place Denver, plus 53, and then the slide continues. Green Bay, plus 37, third. I mean, it's not even close. We're that much better, well-rounded across the board. It's just amazing to think a team that you don't think of as explosive being so very explosive. Again, the balance was back. 31 runs, 25 passes. I just love it when I see this, and I love the fact that we're not just running the ball with Marshawn. The fact that he only had 14 carries in this game. The fact that Robert Sherman had 10, and very productive ones at that. That's something I personally think is a great thing. And I think it's because we're saving them. I'll get into that here in a second. But just going through the numbers, lots of great things to look at. I think, once again, the turnovers, that was probably the only question mark. I just hate to see the fact that we gave up those 2 turnovers. I think an open play that, unfortunately, Russell Wilson just overestimated on throwing the ball a little high, but Paul Richardson was open, and he just missed him, but throwing that interception. And then the fluke fumble by Marshawn, who runs so violent a way that to get in that situation where he actually does fumble. It's something you don't expect. Obviously, he doesn't expect to do it, but probably getting that out of the system before the playoffs is a good thing. But to see us turn the ball, to turn it over twice in the first half, and then come back and then get the turnovers on our favor on the plus side for the ratio overall for the game, pretty amazing. But those are the kinds of things that can hurt us. Russell Wilson, again, targeting and completing balls to 7 different players. I can't stress to you how that goes to really saying how better he is than a lot of these younger quarterbacks, but then also the rest of the quarterbacks in the league. That you just don't see guys being able to find and complete passes to such a diverse group of options, and it's really the thing that's been, I think, seen us defies his greatness going forward and what he's going to be able to become. The fact that he can not just manufacture plays from, and he does such an amazing job on broke plays, but to find different receivers. He's not just looking for one guy. Marshawn Lynch, I already mentioned the fact that he has the 14 carries, but I think this is fantastic and good for the playoffs. I think they have saved him, especially over the stretch these last few games. They know, like last year, we had a huge uptick in carries for Marshawn Lynch as we went into the playoffs. He carried the rock, and I think you're going to see the exact same thing going forward. I think he has had some back issues. I think you've seen that with maybe having him stay out or upset stomach, whatever you want to call it, in the first quarter of some of these ball games. But he is going to be getting the rock the majority of the time, the 20, 23, 24, maybe 25 carries a game going in now into these playoff games. So expect that, and with a nice little Robert Turbin side of seconds, I have no problem with that either. He will be ready to go. Time of possession, and this is something I didn't necessarily follow. And I did
after watching that second game of the season to San Diego, in really kind of formulating a method to beat us and the Cowboys and what they did. But since then, you've seen this team really focus on time of possession and win that battle, and they did once again in this game. 31 versus 28 minutes, almost 29 minutes. Just an unbelievable job, really, overall. Again, I love the balance of the pass and run, like I mentioned, and also red zone. 1 for 1, us in the red zone, third down percentage, again, also becoming a trend and a positive at 46.66% versus the Rams only getting 25% on third down. I know Ollie mentioned that being one of the strengths of this team. And also, I said it, and it's the truth, is that we've been very good, one of the best in the NFL at converting third down with long yardage situations, 9, 10, 11 yards. Looking at some of these individual breakdowns, the total yards number for the Seahawks, it wasn't 596, but still not too shabby, 354 versus a stout Rams defense, averaged 5.7 yards per play. The completion rate for Russell was 68%, 17 to 25, so right around that 70% number he's been trying to get to. Yards per pass, again, very solid, 7.9. Don't like the sacks. That was one of my keys to the game. Didn't want to see him on the ground more than twice. They got to him 3 times, so that's a negative. Rushing numbers, 132 yards, again, very positive. Rushing yards per rush, 3.9, again, against a very stiff front. They have some studs on that line. Aaron Donald's just one of them, but again, that whole group is just going to be scary going forward. They're so young and good. Penalties, again, a huge plus, something that we have not been doing well, but only 2 penalties for 20 yards. Unbelievable work. Time, it seems like they're just finding everything they want to be right at the right time. That's pretty much it for the offensive side of the ball. I was going to mention Paul Richardson real quick, and the fact that he led this team again in receptions, 5 receptions for 60 yards, the average of 12 per, and that 32 long, 7 targets. Obviously, Russell Wilson is being very comfortable with Paul Richardson. I think that's just amazing. And also the fact Kevin Ward got some plays in this game, and out of 2 balls thrown to him, he caught 2 of them. Kind of just a bigger version of Doug Baldwin, maybe a little faster. But Kevin Norwood out of Alabama, this rookie this year, we've all kind of been waiting to see something out of him, and I think he's maybe emerging. So just a lot of good things happening here, and I think it's going to be positive going forward. Let's look at the defense side. Now, one of the shockers here was Bobby Wagner didn't have the most tackles this game.
only 10, which isn't too shabby. But Earl led the team in tackles with 12, 11 solo. I think what stands out here, and one of the reasons I think Earl had the league lead in tackles, was the Rams broke some plays. And I talk about this, that what's really been impressive, I think, for me on the defensive side is that the defensive front, literally the defensive front has been so involved, front four has been so involved with getting tackles, and after the linebackers being right up there. And this week wasn't necessarily the case. It was really back to linebackers and Cam and Earl, which in this case those are the top three guys. Earl 12, Wagner 10, Chancellor 7. After that, you get into some of these big guys that I should definitely mention. One, obviously, Bobby Wagner had 2 tackles for losses. Just a monster all over the place. Cam, the big hit to open the game, that just set the tone. Bruce Irvin, I thought, had a fantastic game. Not just the pick 6, I know, but the 1 sack, the tackle for loss. He's all over the field, pass defended. 5 tackles total, 3 solo. I can't stress enough. I know people have. He hasn't. I don't think Bruce has really gotten his fair due this year. I think personally he had a Pro Bowl year at least. He was amazing. He played a stout, strong side backer coming up and taking that edge away. And that's what you have to be able to do when you're running when you want to stop the run as a defense. And again, I don't think Bruce got a lot of the credit he deserves. Bruce Irvin is playing lights out. He's just a star, kids. Richard Sherm did everything possible he could do. Obi Schofield, another guy, got a sack, but also 2 QB hits. Obi Schofield has been getting a lot more work these past few weeks, and he is making the most of it. Michael Bennett is just off the charts good. He is just beating guys off the line. It's not even funny. Kevin Williams, the old man, the old miss, he is definitely coming into form at the right time, helping obviously take up for Brandon Mebane not being in there. Cliff Averill getting to the quarterback, getting his QB hits. All these guys on that front four, and you don't want to leave out Jordan Hill, obviously a great pick this week at interception he made, and now with the sprained knee, we obviously hope we have him back. But even if he isn't, I think it's a game we could rest him another week and have him ready for the NFC Championship. I don't feel too bad about that. But Jordan Hill should be back. I expect him to be back. And just, again, these numbers are just great. We had, again, 4 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. That's just off the charts good, folks. And then, of course, the QB hits. We get to the quarterback every time. Pressure him. That's one of our recipes to success with 6 QB hits. And then, of course, the touchdown, pick 6 by they called it the Tiger Punch, I guess, the 6-inch punch by Bobby Wagner to loosen that ball up after the reception and see Bruce Irvin grab it and take it the other way. This defense is just playing off the charts. I've gone through those numbers obviously before and up earlier in the show. It's all-time number stuff. I think that probably does it for defense. What else do we need to get into? Let's get into the look back at the Rams and the keys to the game here. Well, I did pretty good this week, believe it or not, but there were some areas that I failed. Yes, I did miss a few. On the defensive side, third down percentage, we wanted to keep them under 40%. Well, we kept them at 25%. So that's a win for the good guys. Number 2, cause turnovers. 2+ turnovers. Well, we caused 3. So, hey, that's a good thing. But that turnover differential ratio was only +1. It's good to be on the plus side, but, we don't want to be turning over the ball. Shut down the run, less than 75 yards. Well, we gave them only 42 yards. We are just playing amazing run defense right now, and we're going to need that, especially if we play the Dallas Cowboys, which are just fantastic at running the ball there. With DeMarco Murray and that front 6, they're monsters. Offensively, 1, protect Russell Wilson. Well, we didn't do that as well. I didn't want more than 2 sacks. That we gave up 3 for 17-yard losses. 2, convert third down percentage greater than 40%. Well, we did a fantastic job there, 46.66%, like I mentioned earlier. And protect the ball, no turnovers. Well, something we have been fantastic at. We did give the ball up twice, an interception and then the Marshawn Lynch fumble, which I mentioned earlier. And if I ever say Marshawn Lynch again, you have permission to kick me. He is the beast mode. He deserves much more credit than that. All right, just moving right along. We've got a couple more minutes left here in the show. I'll skip the next break, but I did want to mention where credit is due. I know Ollie and I kind of got into this, and maybe who deserves most of the credit for this amazing turnaround of the Seahawks this season from where we kind of thought they were drifting off to after the sixth or seventh week of the season. But there's been much discussion so far this year about who deserves this credit, and the Seahawks turnaround, it's just been amazing. And taking a page out of the book that allowed, I think, the Hawks to accomplish what they've done, everyone in this organization and team deserves some credit. In my humble opinion, I give a lot of the credit to Pete Carroll, obviously, to identify the issues and voice them, to step out and voice them to the 12 team leaders he asked into his office the night of that meeting before the Cardinals game. And we still don't know who all those people are. We know a few of them are, but to know that those 12 team leaders actually went back and with those walking orders and took them to heart, transformed, and really brought this group back to the championship mindset that they had last year. And we're seeing something very, very special now. Now we get to sit back and just watch it unfold, and it's fun. Pete Carroll's greatness to create a winning atmosphere is truly something amazing. And I can only say this, thank you. Thank you from the 12s. We appreciate every single thing you guys do. Playoff picks for this next week, final topic of this evening. And if I go a little over, just so everyone know, if you're listening live and it cuts out, the rest of the show will be available on demand. So thank you again for listening, but I'll see if I can wrap up in time. Well, the Saturday, I'll cover the AFC first. Saturday game, AFC is going to be the Ravens at the Steelers, 6 versus 3. It'll be a night game on NBC. I personally think the Steelers agreed with Ollie earlier, are playing at a high level, and Antonio Brown's just off the charts good, and whether they get Le'Veon Bell back will allow them to maybe go deeper in the playoffs, because I think they are one of the teams that could be scary. But I do think that at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, the Steelers will get past the Ravens. In the second AFC game on Sunday, it's the early game. The Bengals, number 5 seed, versus the Colts, 4 seed. Again, the Colts will host, and they hopefully won't be down to the team by 30 points or whatever it was, like they were the Chiefs last year at home. But I do see them handling the Bengals pretty easily. Just the Bengals have just been a different team for seems like the last 6-7 weeks. But the Colts, we'll see how that they're different too. I mean, what Andrew Luck is, and he's kind of been in a funk the last 3-4 weeks as opposed to how he started off the season. Still had some fantastic numbers, but Colts, I still think we're going to win this game. Saturday NFC game, well, we got the Cardinals visiting the Carolina Panthers, the less than 500 Panthers, and they have been playing better. I think a lot of the Cardinals' success will dictate whether or not Drew Stanton's somehow able to come back and play. I don't think that's going to happen in this game, so I really don't give them much of a chance. I think the Panthers win this game. I think it'll probably be a big slugfest, beat-em-up defensive game, but ultimately they win, and then we'll probably end up seeing them the following week up here in Seattle, because I really, even though Sue's going to be able to play, Donovan Sue's going to be able to play for the Lions, a 6 versus 3 game against the Cowboys on Sunday, I just don't give them much of a chance. I think the Cowboys are playing at an amazing level for them, and if that's what we're going to expect to see, I think we're going to expect to see a very, very, very tough game in the NFC Championship ultimately, because I think they will go on and beat the Packers to inevitably join us after we take care of the Panthers in the divisional round. But hey, we'll have to see all those things, how they iron out, and we'll of course have the time to do that, because hey, we got the bye week, right? All right, this is the end of the show, and again, thank you everybody for joining us. Again, I'd like to thank and give a little shout-out to Ollie Connolly from the UKEndZone.com website, owner, writer, and podcaster of all those shows he mentioned. He's on 8 shows, which I knew he was on a lot, but I didn't realize it was 8. He does fantastic work, and he knows his stuff, even though he's an Englishman and a Patriots fan. But hey, the point is, this guy is very good, knowledgeable, and a great fan of the game, and worked with some of the best, as you heard earlier. That was a great interview. I'll have that out on YouTube for everyone to listen to, and it'll be up on my 12 for 12's page a little later this week. You can again follow Ollie at and on Twitter at Ollie, OLLIE, UKEZ. Pretty easy to remember. It's Ollie at UKEndZone. So great interview, and I think one of the best we've had so far. Again, thank you for everyone that does listen to the show, and for all the updates and follows we get back on social media. If you just do, again, the favor of retweeting, liking, depending on what we're on, Facebook or Twitter, and or even Google+. Again, thank you for all the help you have in sharing the updates that I'm providing 3 to 5 times a day. Thanks to the Double OT team, Phoebes, Rachel, Joseph, Tina, all those that help with the retweets and promotion, as well as the great team, Shelby, TJ, Tim, and Barry. Whether or not he's working on the weather machine down there at Como, I hope he is able to keep it somewhat warm as we get through these winter months. But it has been chilly lately, so maybe he's rubbing the old volume button on the old weather machine there at Como. That's a joke, folks, just of course. Thanks again to the folks down in the Texas subway that listen to the show every week. I hope we are, again, providing great listening material for you as Hawks fans. Thanks again. Go Hawks. And also, again, remember you can follow me on all the different networks, on Twitter at PBizzle, P-B-I-Z-Z-E-L, Facebook, Paul Byer, as well as the 12 for 12s radio page, and on the website, 12for12s.com, 12for12s.com. Great, and thank you again, everybody out there, for listening. No Double OT show tomorrow, obviously New Year's Eve. We'll be back next week with a brand new show, getting everyone ready for the divisional round of the playoffs and the Seahawks run, but I'll also be back for a new 12 for 12s, get everybody ready to preview our opponent, whoever that might be. I think it's going to be the Panthers, but we'll see how that plays out. Again, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Happy New Year. Seahawks are in the midst of something very special, and again, do savor it. It is always something that you should remember, and we always end these shows, as we all are well aware of, with a little Iron Maiden, irons up, as I like to say. And I've danced all over the map with the songs this year, and I think that we need to, maybe go back to a little bit of basics here, and that means something that we haven't played in a very long time. Maybe a little 2 minutes to midnight. Again, folks, this is 12 for 12s Radio, your host, Paul Byer, signing off. Thank you again for listening. Happy New Year. And, of course, go Hawks. Up the irons.
gotta love Iron Maiden, right, folks? 2 minutes to midnight, not quite yet, since this is the bye week, but we will have our celebration, so soon enough. January 10th at the Clink, 5:15. Be ready or be squared. Now, this has been 12 Patrols Radio, the last episode of the 2014 campaign. I'll be joining you next week, Tuesday, and so be ready. And, of course, OOT will return as well with Tim and Barry. Thanks again, everybody. It's been a fantastic year, a great year for growth, and I do appreciate every one of you, the followers, the listeners, whether live or on demand. And just everybody, again, happy New Year, and let's go in this thing right. 2014 NFL season right with another Lombardi Trophy. This is 12 Patrols Radio, your host, Paul Byers, signing off. Go Hawks.